Hey there, Handy Travis here. Just a quick short to kind of get you caught up. What we're doing is we are building these here thingies, basically to hold your phone, tablet, whatever, so you can enjoy your videos or streaming or whatever you have. What we've done so far is I've tried to create a template yesterday, and well, didn't exactly do real good. Those are all mess up pieces that I cannot use. However, I did get some really good calculations because who needs paper? It's made out of wood anyway, right? So that's what we've done. We've got a stockpile here. We're gonna get started, and yeah, just keep watching my YouTube channel because I'm actually going to be doing a lot more speaking about entrepreneurship and what it's like to go through each step and the things that are actually in your mind. Keep up. It's going to be fun. Love you. Good luck. Okay. So, here we are again. So, what you see in front of you here, this is basically wood that I have harvested from a pallet that someone was very nice enough to donate. Probably going to get regular donations of pallets so that I can get a supply of lumber. Now this lumber does require some serious treatment in order to use properly, but I do have the first mock-up from the pallet boards as to what this design can look like just produced quickly. Now, I did this yesterday. It's basically the design from the pallet wood. Luckily, this one actually turned out real pretty. If I'd actually known what I was doing, this one would be probably a high dollar item. Anyway, so the general idea, because I realized that the video I took that showed this the first time didn't actually save anywhere for some reason. But there's kind of the idea of the logo. This is stained, teak oiled, it's finished, it's ready to go. This is the actual like prototype of this design. And of course, if I set it down, if I had a phone, I'd show you what it actually does. I don't happen to have an extra phone, go figure. But if this were a phone, of course, it would set like so. And you'd be able to watch your TV shows and whatnot. It's the general idea. However, now when I show you this, you're going to see why harvesting pallet wood is rather difficult. As you can see, there's a gap there. If I flip it around, hang on, a little bit of a gap there. You can see there's actually a bow. Now, of course, there's a gap in the front and again on the other side, again, because of a bow. So some of this wood is going to require treatment of sanding ahead of time. I'm going to have to plane some of it. Some of it I can cut and just sand it in place. Just going to have to go hand by hand with these one by one. Luckily, they're not very big, so it shouldn't take a lot of time. And it shouldn't change the price on them. Because remember, when you're pricing these things, you have to take into account how much of your personal time it takes. Because at that point, your personal time becomes your labor and wages. And you have to think about that when you're doing this. For example, if you go to say a company, you got $20 an hour, right? You have to work an hour to make $20 off that company. Well, if one of these things takes me, say, 3 hours to make it, well, then I need to charge $60 for this just to make up for the time I spent, much less the stuff I used to actually make it. I can guarantee you I'm not paying $60 for that shit. Ain't nobody gonna pay $60 for that shit, but that's what that means. So in order to actually maximize your profitability in the instance of being an entrepreneur, in order to make $20 an hour, which as an entrepreneur is honestly not even close to what you're going for, this guy right here, I'm going to sell something similar to this for about $10. That means I need to make at least 2 an hour to make $20 an hour. That's just for wages. Here's where it gets convoluted and why everybody thinks that this is hard. In order to make this, if I didn't have this donated, I would have to purchase the lumber. The cost of the lumber of this one piece would be, I don't know, 9 inches of a 1x3. I don't know, what is that, $1.10? Doesn't sound like a lot, but here, It also required glue. Okay, well, 4 cents of glue. We're not really getting anywhere with these prices yet. Okay, well, I had to cut it, which means that I used part of a blade. I also used the tool that the blade goes on, like a skill saw. Every time those are used, just like a car or any other machine, it depreciates in value, which means that I have lost about, I don't know, 2% of the lifespan of my skill saw just by cutting up the lumber you see in front. So on a long enough timeline, I'm going to have to get a new skill saw. So there's another portion of cost. Not to mention I'm going to have to replace my saw blade, and there's 3 different blades that need to be used to properly do this thing. Oh yeah, then there's the sandpaper that you have to make sure you have in multiple different types of grits. Oh yeah, and then there's the stain that you have to use at the end. Oh yeah, and then there's the teak oil that you use after the stain. And oh yeah, then you have to calculate the cost of shipping. Then you have to calculate the cost of what it takes to run digital marketing, or how much does it cost you to pay the gas to drive this little item right here down to the local flea market and back? How much wear and tear did you put on your own vehicle? What kind of vehicle did you use? What kind of gas mileage are you getting? So this little dude right here, in order for me to bring home $20 an hour, by the time you're done calculating this out, and I'm going to be as nice as I can, for me to bring home $20 an hour and make these little dudes, if I were to make 4 an hour and sell, remember you also have to sell them, not just make them, but sell them as well, in an hour, that's $80, I would bring home, starting out, nothing. But once this thing actually gets to moving, yeah, sure, that's $80. But after what it costs to make that $80, you keep about 5 to 10 of it. So you make about $5 to $10 an hour in reality land. And that's just starting out. That's literally just using the scraps you can get donated. So yeah, when they say this is hard, we're not kidding. Because I didn't even mention the wood burning. I didn't mention all the hours spent studying all these techniques, actually practicing the muscle memory to actually get it down, to actually know what steps have to happen and when. Not to mention, to make this little doohickey here, let's just give you a little journey. There's several pieces that have been cut out over here. There's calculations on this board. There's little cutouts over here. Love the coffee. Not my coffee cup, but I'm lucky to drink from it. It's awesome. But I mean, there's different designs. There's so much that you have to practice and calculate and practice. And it's like, sure, you can have the dream. Well, what if I just go out and make birdhouses? Sure, try it. Your first birdhouse is going to take you about 95 actual hours to make. Let's go back to how much you want to make. $20 an hour, 95 hours just to make the first viable one, and that one you have to use to make the ones you're actually going to sell. Because first you have to make a template, which is your first birdhouse. Now, 95 hours after starting with nothing and having a finalized birdhouse you can't sell, if you were to make $20 an hour, really do the math on that. Yeah, $1,900 that you could have made. Instead, you spent 95 hours of your life not making money. Spending money, in fact, because you have to buy all those supplies. So you're taking money out of the job that you have to make this thing that you're not going to make money on. It seems completely insane to anyone who's never done something like this. However, once you get it down to where you're making a birdhouse every 3 hours and you're selling them for $20-30 a pop, well, then you get into a place where in your life, yes, you've invested hundreds and thousands of hours in making this craft, but really, the past is the past, the future ain't here, and you're only given today. So at the day that you finally reach all of that skill set and all of that, you're finally making 4 a day and selling 2 a day. Well, suddenly you're in a place where you're making $300 a week extra. And you're not trying very hard. Let's see if you can boost it up. And that's how it happens. That's the little seed that gets planted. Now, to get that to that place where you're selling 2 or 3 a day of those bird houses that you just wonderfully had an idea to do? You don't know how much time that you invest? If you're lucky, you might do it in 3 months or less. Maybe. But to get the skills necessary and actually start the sales and get them to actually rotate themselves and start to generate themselves for you, good luck doing it in under 3 years. They used to tell you you're going to have 2 years of debt, just constant incursions of expenses. 2 years to get your business to start actually operating in the black instead of in the red. That's no longer true. I don't care what any economist or anybody might want to try to tell you. That's just not true. When you take into account exactly how much you invested to get started, for you to, as a person, be functioning in the black with your business, you're looking at 4 to 5 years. If you only take into account the business expenses and not the skills necessary to do the job, you're still looking at 3 to 4 years before you start looking at black numbers. And for those of you that don't know what I mean, when you're looking at profit loss, you're looking at how much you spent on all the hundreds of different things and how much you are going to invest back into the business and how much you have to put into different areas and how much you're going to pay yourself, and what's left over is considered the profit. Well, when you're calculating all of that shit, the easiest way to do it is all of your red numbers are negative numbers. All of your black numbers are positive numbers. So when you say that the business is operating in the black, that means that they have brought more money in than they have invested to get the money in the first place. That's what that means. There's actually not a lot of businesses that function 100% in the black. Very few. There's a lot of black and a lot of red, and honestly, breaking even, good job. If you break even ever, you better celebrate with, the fancy ramen instead of the regular. Because that's what you will be able to afford 3 years in when you finally hit your first black number. You have to keep track of all of it. You do. It takes a lot of focus and a lot of responsibility on yourself, on your pocketbook, on what you invest in. It takes a lot of responsibility, a lot of consideration, a lot of memory. If you don't have good memory, you got to write it down. And hell, even if you have good memory, this guy, free wood. I didn't have to buy the glue. I didn't have to buy the saw. I already had those from past experiences. So I'm doing this basically for nothing from what I can see from today's perspective. It's been a lifetime. I still have never had an operational business of my own. I've been working for other people my whole life, a whole lifetime, 41 years of my life. This is hopefully going to kickstart a life that I've never experienced. So never mind all the mathematics and calculations. You got to be insanely stupid to look at something like that and go, yep, I'm pretty sure I can build a kingdom off that. Yep, I'm pretty sure I can. You got to be a special kind of stupid for that. The thing is that special kind of stupid is the only world changer that has ever existed. You name another person that's changed the entire world that didn't have a little bit of that was stupid in them. Yeah, I'll wait. No, I won't. You'll never get there. Look, you got to be crazy. You got to be stupid. You got to be a little bit out of your zone. You got to think of things that people aren't thinking of, which is hard to do because all we're exposed to is what people are thinking of, and frankly, we're not thinking much lately. Go ahead, try to argue. So, moving on. Those are all the things to consider. So here I am. We're 13 minutes into this video. I haven't touched a thing yet. But I wanted to kind of catch you up on what's going on. This is the design. It will be stained to this color. And it will be finalized with a teak oil. You can actually see and hear I've sanded it. Still kind of rough, right? This has been sanded. It has been stained and teaked. I've got a bug that looks like it wants to sting me coming in. Anyway, listen to this. You can actually hear the audible difference in the smoothness and the texture, because it's been burned, it's been formed, it's been sanded, it's been stained, it's been teak oiled. I mean, this guy right here, the actual prototype, which is thicker wood, you can tell it's just different. That prototype, that one alone probably took me 6 hours. There's no way I'm charging $200 for that to make a profit. That's not happening. I'm going to keep it and I'm going to use it. I like it. 6 hours. That's ridiculous. It should not take that long. I need to be able to make that 2 to 6 times an hour to be able to turn out a profit. That's just what you have to do. Nobody cares about custom stuff anymore. They care about things that are pretty and functional. They want them to look good and serve an actual purpose. We're getting very much away from all the shiny, pretty things. There's still a lot of those going around and a lot of people out there that want them and need them, and that's great. That number of people is diminishing rapidly. I've talked to jewelers, I've talked to pawn shops, I've talked to people who actually deal in the finer items of life at less than finer prices. The deal is, nobody cares how special it is. Nobody cares. They care if it's pretty, if it's functional, and can you do it again? Is it sustainable? It's amazing. The word sustainable is becoming very predominant in today's world. Anyway, I don't think we're actually going to get much work done since I can't seem to stop yapping my mouth. However, after lots of work yesterday, the calculations of these angles and these cuts and all the things that I got to do to make these things form ended up making various different not okay pieces. So I got to a point where there was one, I'm like, well, this ought to work out well, right? I'm like, what? Wait, that doesn't quite look right. So when I put my phone on there and it's going to be mounted here, it's going to be leaned way the hell back there. Well, that's not a hell of a lot different than those little buttons and things that you can get on the back of your phone, so that's not very helpful. Well, look at this. I destroyed an entire piece of wood that I'm never going to be able to use. None of those pieces can I use as a template. None of those pieces can I follow. They're all mess ups because I use calculations from this piece of wood onto this piece of wood, and those angles are not the same. So I had a lot of struggle yesterday. Probably 4 hours worth of work here in the shop. Again, no money. I just still don't have a final product to actually put a price tag on. However, I did learn, and you'll notice that this one is nice and actually somewhat smooth. Well, the actual template that I'm going to be using right now, you can see where this starts. I don't necessarily have everything perfectly sanded. I mean, this is definitely rough wood that I start with. However, this here template, even though it doesn't quite match up right, there's things that are wrong with it. This template, and a little bit of piece here, gives me the perfect idea, because that's the template, right? I can just take these pieces off, right? That template was used to cut and sand these pieces. By using that template for these pieces, I have changed the angle of the phone to where even when the phone is there, you can look right down the middle of that and there's no light top or bottom. See? And that's exactly what I was going for, is that the angle of your device when it sits on this is flat against this face. Do you know how fun that angle is to try to get right? Anyway, but now that that's calculated and done and I've spent all those hours, I have these 3 pieces. These 3 pieces are going to give me the lines along this board, right? Bam, bam, and bam. Now I'm going to know where to cut each one. Just put my little pencil down there, mark it, and cut it. And once I have a whole bunch of them cut out, then I just sand a whole bunch of them. Then I glue a bunch of them. And then I assemble them, and I make sure they don't fall apart. They get to this state. Sand them again. Once they're all sanded, get all that sanding shit off of there. Blow dry or whatever. Get yourself some pressure air, or just, make yourself pass out blowing out. That kind of crap. Whatever it takes, get that sawdust off there. Then you stain the crap out of it, right? Then once all that's dry, you go back and you teak oil it twice, which follow the instructions on your on your finishing oil, because you may not want teak oil. You might want to go with Danish. You might want to go with whatever. But it still has all that to do. If I can cut out and make 5 or 6 of these an hour, which that's an average. Think about it. If this guy's going to take me 3 hours to finalize and then another 70 hours for the teak oil to cure, that's 73 hours. There's no way I'm making more than one of those in an hour when it takes 73. You have to think about it in a cycle. So if I need to make 3 an hour, that means 72 hours from this hour, I need to have 3 ready to sell. You think about it in those terms. It's tricky, it's tough, and you don't even have to think about it that way. That's just the way I've had to do it, to be able to put it in the right compartments, to be able to understand that just making 10 of these is never going to make a profit. You got to make 10,000. And don't be afraid of the 10,000 number. It just takes that much. It doesn't mean you can't do it. Lots of people have done it, and you're a people, so you can do it. It really is that basic. But look, man, I'm trying to do this from scratch. Absolute scratch. We're talking like less than no hope scratch. Had to get a pallet donated just to have wood to make it. And now I'm going to have to figure out how to buy new sandpaper to sand these pieces down and actually make them fit right. Not an easy journey, but it's worth it. Anyway, I'm going to jump off here for now because I'm now running out of personal time. I now have to go to an hourly wage job, and I have to get the car to its owner, and I have to walk from dropping that car off to my job. So there's going to be a lot of time taken, and I need to go get that done. Plus, for any of you coffee drinkers out there, you know exactly what happens when you drink a little too much coffee too quickly in the morning. Not a small cup. I haven't had a lot, but I've definitely have some. Anyway, that's it for now. Again, lots of work yesterday, but sure shit don't look like it. You want to be an entrepreneur? Well, become very happy and friendly with failure. It's the only way you're going to learn and grow anyway. Anyway. Love you. Good luck.